Back with you on the Newsfeed PM, and thanks for staying on. Experts say that the escalating conflict in the Middle East, marked by US and Israeli strikes on Iran and the retaliatory attacks across the Gulf, might affect ordinary South Africans in their pockets. It comes after a surge in oil prices, with analysts warning of a barrel could reach as high as $100 if the fighting disrupts major supply routes, which means more expensive fuel and food in the months ahead. For more on this, we are now joined in studio by African Energy and Youth Forum Valentino Chigwedere and CKIJ, co-founder of Casella George. Good to have you guys, and thank you very much for coming on this afternoon. I was reading a bit earlier on that for the first time now, the United States is actually going for where the oil is, and they're actually for the first time now hitting that particular infrastructure. And of course, Iran is seemingly not at this particular point ready to open that tunnel or that canal that allows for ships to go through, except for only to allow some to go through to China. What does that picture really mean?
Yeah, I think ultimately, the situation that's happening is that 20% of all the crude oil that travels into Asia, into Africa, comes from across the globe, comes from that strait, right, which is the Middle East, right? And what's happening is that the blockage of that strait already is affecting global production in terms of where it goes to the destinations, which is the refiners in Asia. And now what's happening is that affects global prices across the globe, and it's actually impacting us here in South Africa as well, because we are also a net importer of crude oil and fuel.
Yeah. So what would that look like in South Africa? Prices going higher, shortage of fuel. What does that mean?
I think for us SMEs, it's going to be very detrimental, because we all know that logistics is a very big backbone of a business. So, and then now prices going up, it means that logistic-wise it's going to be difficult. So now the margins, already the SMEs are operating on a very tight margin. So which means that margins are going to go up. So it's going to be difficult to get business. And we all know how important that SME is to our communities. When the SMEs grows, the community grows, and there's big job creation in SMEs. So we need to really be careful, and SMEs need to start planning for the unseen and start strategizing, and then we need to be resilient at this time.
Yeah, President was speaking of green shoots of growth, beginning to be optimistic that things are turning a corner. We are working a little bit better on the energy side. The Operation Vulindlela is working very well, particularly also on the logistics side. Things are beginning to pick up speed there. Does this put a spanner in the works?
Yes. No, I think it does. Ultimately, I think, energy security and security of supply is an important factor in South Africa particularly, right? But not just for South Africa alone. As South Africa, as we are a refining country, one of the only countries that actually refine, we are actually refining 358,000 barrels per day of production. Currently, right now, because of the Astron Energy Terminal is currently under maintenance, we're actually refining about 258,000 barrels per day of crude oil to actually have refined product on the market. So what's happening is that there are also countries reliant on South Africa's refining capacity, and because we are close to the coast, then what we do, we play a pivotal role in actually exporting refined products into other inland markets. So you look at Botswana, you look at Lesotho, you look at Eswatini. So with these disruptions that are currently happening right now, we're not just affected as a country in terms of pricing, but we are actually affecting our neighboring countries that we export to as well. Yeah. So it does affect the industrial capacity in terms of what my colleague here spoke in terms of margins. Look at 11% of refined products that comes into the country actually goes into industrial activity, and it goes into the agricultural activity as well in the country.
Now, Valentino, it's been argued that we could do better in that refinery capacity. We could boost, because there are refineries that are mothballed, there are refineries that never recovered and they were just left, and then we just opted to bring refined stuff in.
Yeah, I think one thing that people don't understand is that in terms of refining capacity, and the reason why they're going offline, right, is that So we were refining about 718,000 barrels of crude oil and crude oil equivalent through Secunda, right, Sasol Secunda refinery. But then what's happening is that we've lost half of that refining capacity. And the reason why we've lost that refining capacity is because of some of the legislations that have actually been implemented or are about to be implemented, right, which is the Clean Fuels 2 policy that government has gazetted to say that all fuel needs to meet European 5 fuel standards. So what happens then is that then makes it or disincentivizes refiners in South Africa to actually upgrade because, number one, running a refinery itself is expensive. But secondly to that also, what happens is that it actually affects, the output of the actual product itself. So then what happens now is that refiners don't have the money or the incentive from government to say that they will actually be getting incentivized to actually upgrade their refineries. Then this forces investors to not actually invest in the refining capacity in South Africa, and then ultimately that then affects the refining capacity as a whole in the country. So what we need to do is to actually fix that and to ensure that the standards that we have within South Africa actually meet the standards of South Africa itself, right? But without fixing the refining capacity in South Africa, we will always remain as a net importer of petroleum products within the country.
Yeah. We've seen ports adding war risk surcharge. We're hearing airlines saying we are adding a temporary surcharge because of the hike in jet fuel. What are SMEs to do? Are there temporary measures?
I think we should now, it highlights the fact that we need to start focusing like local, depending on local in our SADC region, to start supporting each other, because the more we support each other, the more we become independent of the global market. As we see now that the global markets are shaking, they're unstable and it affects us. So what do we do then? That's when now, when we have the local region, like the whole SADC, if we're supporting each other, and then it allows us to still continue trading, especially because we depend a lot on import products.
Right.
Now, the ports, what's happening with the ports, even the ships are delayed. So now it's going to affect production. It's going to affect the services.
Yeah.
So clients are going to start looking elsewhere.
More days for stuff to be delivered.
It was more days.
Could this then be the catalyst that could speed up the Africa Free Trade arrangement?
Definitely. I think this is a wake-up call for us. And we should definitely look into speed it up. And then also, as SMMEs, we need to focus, to also redirect our focus on technology as well. There's AI coming up, it's booming, and it helps, it assists to have us connected, especially when we want to work with the SADC region.
The government at this particular point, I mean, they seem to be adopting a watch-and-see approach. What should they be doing?
I think when it comes to our government, they should tighten up their policies, because they should have something like, at Anglo, there's a thing called inclusive procurement, which focuses a lot on SMMEs, opportunities. Yeah. So there's opportunities that are fenced for SMMEs. There's a budget, that is an annual budget that is set for SMMEs. So there's opportunity that goes there. So I think the government should also focus on that to say, listen, we create a certain opportunity. These opportunities goes only to SMMEs, which will then help SMEs get opportunity and grow, because we are competing in markets where we have giants. I mean, I don't want to be a David. Yeah. Not everybody can be a David. Not all the Goliath can be slayed. Yeah. So at the end of the day, government needs to make provision actually for SMMEs, because we all know SMMEs are now the backbones of our economy, plowing a lot into the economy, being informal or formal, because big business is no longer growing. Yeah, but SMMEs have a lot of room to grow. So government needs to put a big focus in that. And also making funding available for SMMEs.
Valentin, you had some suggestions around DMRE, maybe notable proposals that DMRE should be looking at right now.
Yeah, so I think initially there was a strategic stocks policy that the DMRE had gazetted in 2012, but to this day, we don't actually have it implemented ultimately. And what this policy does is that it focuses on the strategic reserves within the country for crude oil, but also focuses on refined products. Because currently right now, within our storage terminals, our crude reserves, we have about 7.7 million barrels of crude oil sitting at Saldanha Bay under the the ownership of the Strategic Fuel Fund, but that's not enough for us, right? Because we are now a net importer, and that is only crude oil, because crude oil doesn't do anything unless if it's refined. So we need to relook at the strategic reserves policy again, and ensure that that is implemented, because what that allows then within that policy framework is that it allows, number one, for crude oil reserves to be there, but number two, it also incentivizes then more refined products to be stored as well, because we're a net importer of those refined petroleum products, right? But thirdly, also, it allows that we have refining capacity from actually the oil majors themselves who are actually supplying, because then that creates a nice buffer, not just from a government side, but also from wholesalers as well, to ensure that we actually have strategic reserves in the country should any international turmoil or geopolitical risks arise within that terrain.
Yeah. Who benefits from this? I mean, ultimately, at the end of it, who are going to come out better?
To be honest with you, I think the people who are going to benefit better is actually the traders who are looking at the markets currently right now. The person who's not going to benefit is the local person who actually goes to the pump. It's the industrial people. But the people who are benefiting from this are the market manipulators, the traders themselves. But I think for us then, we need to look at where we are as South Africa and ensure that we have government intervention, where government says, look, let's not be passive about this. Yeah. What can we do to learn from this and ensure that for future references, we're able to have strategic reserves that then creates a buffer for our people and for other nations as well within the country.
We are not a David facing a Goliath. Is there a hope for a quick recovery or quick resolution from where you sit?
I think from where I'm sitting is that we need to realize, or rather wake up as SMMEs, that because markets don't care how small you are. Markets don't care how big you are. Markets don't care where you are. But you yourself needs to make the market needs to feel you. We need to position ourselves better. We need to be resilient, and we need to take initiative at times, so that at least when, like, especially that's why we're pushing the local and regional support. Yeah. That once we support each other, I mean, someone can wake up, this thing can be over now. After 6 months, 12 months, someone else wakes up and wants to bomb someone else. Yeah. Then we're in the same situation again. Right. At least when that happens, we can move on as if nothing happened.
Gentlemen, appreciate your time. Thanks so much for coming on. That's Casella George, as well as Valentino Chigwedere.